somebody else. But actually, so equity is very important. The equity capital is less, I would say it is less costly. Why? Now everybody is looking at actually borrowing, borrowing from the bank. Even some people, some startup, if they don't understand how finance really works, they might go and take a Louis Express loan at 18% interest from Bank of Maldives and try to finance their initial finance. This is very, very risky, because you might be end up paying, if this idea flops or you are not able to make revenue to repay it, you might be ending paying that loan for next 3 years. So you might actually lose the chance of saving anything out of the business and reinvesting in the business. So it might be much worthwhile to give equity to a co-founder, or even after founding, if you have a co-founders, for example, 2 people to start up together, and then somebody, you want to bring in somebody who is technical. If you look at even Microsoft, for example, the story, isn't it? Because they wanted to bring somebody who is really financially strong, financial person who has worked at like CEO for levels of Fortune 500 companies, for example. That level person into the company, they gave shares to him and then brought him in. So this is how actually in other countries, especially in US or other places, they give very importance. They give very much importance to equity, because equity, why even angel investors might want to take a part of that equity, is because they believe in the idea and they believe in the people who are behind it, so that actually their wealth can that can be a faster way of growing their money than keeping it in the bank or investing in an investment fund or something like that. For an investor, that is high risk, but for a startup founder, actually that is the lowest risk of funding to actually start with. So if you have a very good idea, as far as you have the control in shares, don't be holding on to every single percentage of your equity. Let it go, let the idea flourish and grow, because being a founder, this might not be your last idea. How many ideas Steve Jobs tried? iPhone became a hit, isn't it? So how many ideas Bill Gates must have tried before they launched Microsoft, for example. So these are the examples we can say, so it's always, so equity is when you give out part of the ownership to actually somebody else, and ask that person to be on board with you to ride into this journey.
Okay. All right.
I think you put it very nicely at the end there.
Okay, I request Dhanish and Inaz to shed some lights about it. But before that, I think we have a question from panel attendees. The question is, I have secured half for an investment. However, I do not know where to look for these angel investors or venture capitalists. So, Dhanish, what's your view on this?
Okay, I'll just share like from my what I would do if I was in your situation. I would do like, depends on where you are in your business. Maybe you've already started on it, or maybe it's just still conceptual. They are never like, for example, even in Malaysia, there are a lot of funding opportunities. There are a lot of high net worth individuals, but you never know, they're not sitting in the same coffee shop, or they're not part of a club. Right, you still have to go and find them. You still have to use connections to, and you have to get your, how do I call this nicely? You have to get punched in the face a lot, but at the same time, you still ask for more references. Okay, maybe you might not be interested either because you don't believe in the idea, or in my case, advertising might not be his forte. Do you know anybody who does? Right, and before you actually become like a 5-year-old company, or with a network, when you have a brand that people know of, that's how I did it. I spent a lot of time in interviews, basically one-on-one meetings. I took part in pitching competitions, just not to thinking that, okay, at the end of this pitching competition, I'm going to get funding. I was always say, okay, at the end of this pitching competition, I'm going to have 5 more people I can build relationships with. And if you have already secured half for an investment, you actually have some leverage on you as well. You can now go to your future potential investors and say, I'm going to proceed on building my business with the investment that I have today. And if you don't come in today and want to come in later, the valuation is also I would have secured a lot more customers. I would have built my business even further, and you wouldn't be coming in at the same valuation or the same amount of equity, right? And you can use that to your advantage as well. But don't sit on that half an investment until the other half comes in. Do what you can today so that your other half becomes more valuable. You know. And I also wanted to add to what Iyaz shared on equity as well. I feel I want to also share that there are two sides of the coin. Number one, a lot of founders are very, very, very what do you call it, stubborn or selfish, or they really want to hold on to as much equity as possible because it's their baby. They came up with the idea. But you have to realize that what I learned as well is owning 100% of nothing means nothing compared to even if you have 60% of something, and maybe you need to give away up to 20%, 30%, or even 40% in order to get the right investors or the right people on board to help you turn that equity into something that is valuable, right? But at the same time, I want to share, I had a lot of hurdles with some investors that I had spoken to in the early stages that wanted to eat 70, 80% out of the business right out of the gate. And to the extent that investors also have to realize that the founder and the entrepreneurs of the business need to have enough skin in the game to wake up in the morning and say that this is mine and I want to do this without sleeping for the next 5 days, right? And some investors also don't realize that. They just want to eat the largest chunk, saying that I'm taking a large risk, right? But the risk is actually on making sure the founder wakes up in the morning and gets the job done. And you need to leave enough skin in the game for him to do that, right? So there are two sides to it. I just thought I would add that.
Okay, very nice. Thank you very much, Dhanish. I request Inaz to shed some lights on equity. Inaz,
we're referring to the question that the panelist has asked, right? Or on equity?
Yes.
Okay. What do you say?
At the same time, yeah. Question that we are.
Sorry, go on. I couldn't understand the question. Let's go with that.
It's about shedding some lights on equity. Yeah. As a startup, how do you work with for financing?
Yeah. So I just want to share with you something.
Yeah.
I just want to share with everyone something that actually I did. My education background is from chartered accounting. I'm a part qualified chartered accountant. And no, even an accountant and even a businessman, sometimes we think that we are in the right shape and we done our budget, and budget took about half a day and that's it, finished. And then we do the rest of all the formatting and all what is needed is already there. But the biggest thing that I realized when it comes to equity, the mistake that I have done is when we look into very realistic budget, I thought that this is going to be 100% accurate, that I'm going to be following the budget and this is going to be it, and that's how much I need, and then I'm going to be open, and then from the day I open, and then this is going to be like 1 or 2, 3 months cash flow, and that's it. That's the beauty of the whole journey that I was visualizing. But obviously I even designed that during COVID. And completely, even my budget didn't even come 50% closer to the reality. And this is very, very scary. And because I already committed, I raised some funds, and now I have to look into alternative opportunities and ways how I can refinance even before starting the whole concept and the restaurant. So I think in terms of equity, it's very important for us even to leave some space and some expenses, or make it as realistic as possible. Make sure that we don't leave any ground for any leakages. When I open, I mean, like it was a bit of a rush opening because Crossroad was pushing for us to open. It was 2 years already developing, and COVID and lockdown and everything happened. And they were pushing us to open. Obviously, there is a business entity, so I have to commit myself as well to open on a specific date. So when we opened, we did not have the cash flow. That was the biggest thing. I could have done this, I could have done that, I could have, all these things started coming in, especially with regards to managing the finance. So I think it's important when we talk about equity, as Danish mentioned, look into from the other aspect, not only from your own aspect, sometimes from customers aspect, sometimes from the business itself, where the location is, and sometimes the logistics can be more expensive than what we predicted. And sometimes the people, then the basic salaries started increasing in the Maldives. So all these things might happen. So we have to leave enough flexibility in terms of raising fund. I just want to share some insight to the question also. That's why I was asking. The panelist is saying that he has started the business. He's got some money, I think maybe from savings and some others, and looking for an angel investor. Practically what I was also trying to do. Even I'm looking now as well, if you find anyone as such. But the question is very valid, because there's no platform where we can find these people, right? As Iyaz said very rightfully, there are many people who are interested. You have to expand your network, right? You have to go out, you have to start looking into different places. We have to be into different forums where you kind of get connected to the right people, and these people will speak about you. Now, especially a very good example what Danish has said, I just want to expand it to more event context, because maybe Danish, in your presentation, sometimes you are looking into, I'm building connections, but this connection can be a bit more scattered in Malaysia and a bigger country as such. But in the Maldives, believe it or not, when we build connections, the connections will speak for us. Either it's going to be, this person that said no could have gone and spoken to somebody saying, by the way, there was a very nice idea, I have seen it, this guy is amazing.